Where you place your badge when you're out of uniform or wearing soft clothes for work is a critical safety issue that's not often brought up. Today we're going to look at the Kansas City Badge Placement Study. We're also going to talk about how this study applies not only to people who are working out of uniform, but uniformed officers and quasi-uniformed officers as well. Stick around. All right, man, take a seat, buckle up. Ordinarily, we'd start with orientation of the car here, but we got calls pending, and we got to get to them. So, we're rolling. We're going to have to learn on the way. All right, today,
Northbound, this car, northbound, Missouri Avenue. We're on 7th and Pine. We're going back towards where we came from. 7th and Pine. He just crashed your car. Straight and 11. Straight and 11.
steps to the left. This is it. Go. So the Kansas City badge placement study was born out of a similar incident to this. What had happened was there was a major incident where officers from all over were searching for a gunman, and one of those officers was a ununiformed officer who had as his only source of identification a badge clipped to his belt, a Kansas City Police Department badge. And he had deployed a rifle in, it's my understanding, blue jeans and a t-shirt, blue jeans and polo shirt, and he was misidentified by another officer and he was shot and killed. Now, this had happened a couple of times over the course of the prior years, and so the Kansas City Police Department's firearms unit decided that they were going to conduct a study during the course of regular training. So as they did their course of training for regular officers, they added in to the course of fire, for their live fire training, shoot, no shoot stuff, they added in no shoot targets that were adults, both male and female, with Kansas City Police Department badges, either clipped to their belt or hung centerline low on the chest, or an ID, Kansas City Police Department ID, either clipped to the belt or hung low on the chest. And they also conducted these things both during the daylight and in low light situations. So what they found was that you were 4 times more likely to be misidentified and shot, regardless of what method you used, if it was at night. And you were 6 times more likely to be misidentified and shot by responding officers if the badge is clipped to your belt than if it's hung around your neck. Now, this study clearly shows that it's safer to have ID, whatever type it is, low on your chest than it is on your belt. But it misses some key points that kind of exacerbate the problems with just clipping a badge to your belt during a critical incident. One of those points, and I'm going to roll in some video for this, but one of those points is that the badge that they had clipped to the belt of the target was full facing the officer, and that's not normally the case when you have a badge clipped to your belt, unless you are a completely flat person, which we know in the real world doesn't happen. Where officers are trained to put their badge, in most places I've ever been to, when they're walking around and they have a gun and a badge clipped directly in front of it as their primary source of identification, is directly in front of the gun, which doesn't face it directly toward anybody that we might run across that's trying to decide whether or not we're a threat. It's actually shown at an angle. You can see in the video here me rounding a corner, presenting a threat to the camera, and the placement of the badge, because it's directly where I would normally place it. You know, when I'm doing administrative duties or going to court, you only see a glancing shot of that badge. Now, the other issue with it is that they took out the effect of motion on the human eye. When you hang a badge around your neck and it's low on your chest where your arms clear the level of the badge, as you come around that corner, as you can see in this video, the badge is swinging a little bit and it draws the eye a little better than it normally would. Now, raid jackets are a great thing. I'm not going to say that they're not. I use them. You've seen several videos that I have about raid jackets and different types of coats to try to better identify ourselves. And they're awesome for at the back. The problem is that most raid jackets put your identification up really high left front or really high right front or across your chest, high on your chest. And the problem with that, as you can see here, is that as you point out with a pistol, to address a threat or a perceived threat or to cover an area, you're also blocking a lot of that ID with your arms and with the weapon that you're using. So that can create a problem in that a lot of raid vests don't have patches on the shoulders and don't have writing down the side, and I'm just as guilty of that as anybody else. I always suggest to people that if you're going to use a raid vest, you're going to use a badge. If there's a critical incident, you want to keep both of these things available, and if you're going to have a badge, you want it to have a chain so that you can unclip it from your belt and hang it around your neck and have a raid vest in the car with you or in a bag or in a pocket or something like that where you can pull it out and don it in a hurry, and that's going to give you a whole lot more identification. Bonus points if you've got extra identification on your arms that IDs you as police. Now, if you want to read the full text from the perspective of the officers who did that original study and then follow-on studies, which, by the way, seem to suggest that the numbers are actually much worse. When they did further follow-on studies, the numbers got worse and worse with the number of officers that were shot. You can look down below in the comments section. I'm going to put the link down there to the original PDF file where I got most of this information. Now, here's something of my personal experience that I want to add to this. I took part in a similar training where the circumstances were a lot more varied in which the targets were presented to us. In fact, we had one target that was of a female New York Police Department officer, and we mixed young people with older people and females with males, and there were a few takeaways from that I want to share with you. One was that the fully uniformed NYPD officer was triple tapped, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head, by one of the SWAT guys, which Could be a condemnation of that particular officer, or maybe he had a bad day, but he's a very highly trained person who was very on his game, and he managed to make that mistake because it was very low light and his light went out on his gun. So it can happen. Even for uniformed officers, this type of thing can go bad. Another takeaway was that male officers are a lot slower to shoot females in general, though females seem to be just as fast shooting males or females in shoot-no-shoot types of situations. Another thing that I noticed from when I took part in that training was that better dressed people, it normally took officers longer to shoot better dressed people. And the better dressed detective simulated officers who had badges around their neck or badges on their belt got shot a lot less than the ones that walked around in ratty jeans and black t-shirts. So it's something to think about when you're deciding how you're going to dress for work. I'm not saying dress in a shirt and tie. I don't dress in a shirt and tie every day to go to work. That should be pretty clear if you've watched a bunch of my stuff. But one thing that you should take into account is that ripped hole in your jeans and your boss not wanting you to have it, or if you are the boss making that decision that your guys shouldn't have ripped jeans, or that they're going to have to wear something with a collar, can sometimes be a lifesaver for them, because the better they're dressed, the less likely it is they're going to be misidentified. If we look like the stereotypical police officer, we're more likely to be ID'd as the stereotypical police officer. You had the shooting in Tully Square Mall where the uniformed officer in the after action report, I'll try to put a link to a video about that below, the uniformed sergeant that came on scene made contact with an off-duty and said he almost immediately identified him as being an off-duty police officer, even though he'd never met the person before in his life, because of the way he was dressed, because of the way he carried himself, because of the way he handled his firearm, which was already out at that point. He kind of had a suspicion, and then when he verbally identified himself as a police officer, the sergeant believed him, and because of that, they were able to successfully engage an active shooter. So it's more than just where you place your ID on your person, but there's a lot of things that come into play. Well, hopefully that made it clear as to why you don't want to just clip a badge onto your belt and go about your business without ever thinking about it again. That's not proper identification from 360 degrees, and it's not going to help you very much in an emergency. Some places get around this issue by issuing raid jackets to people who are not in uniforms, and that's a pretty good thing to do if they know that there's going to be something happening. But if we all know that that's not always the case, we don't always know when things are going to go down. Some larger agencies will issue a color of the day. Well, a color of the day works great. The downside to that is that if you're going to have a multi-jurisdictional response, where most jurisdictions in the United States, they have a major critical incident, there's going to be people from a bunch of different agencies showing up, they're not always going to know what that color of the day is because it's generally an in-house issue. So keep those issues in mind. Check out our Patreon, send us some money. Maybe one day you'll be able to hear a video without a bunch of wind noise in the background. I won't be shooting it on a Nikon Coolpix point and shoot. And we will see you guys next week. Stay safe. Well, if you like that video, go ahead and subscribe, because there's a whole lot more to come. As soon as I finish up these calls, go 10-8. County 291. So here's our quick channel update. Like I said in the Galco Royal Guard video, I'm getting a new guy, and that's going to kind of curtail some of the time that I can put into this. I do still intend on putting out a video every week, and maybe more than one if they're really small ones, but I've got a bunch of pro tip videos that I've been putting off for a while because they're kind of small concepts, and I've been trying to put a lot of time into the epically large, big topic videos that a lot of people seem to really like. But I'm going to be putting out a lot of little pro tip videos. Hopefully you guys like the quality of the content over the quantity. I'd like to thank the people that have donated on the Patreon page and given a couple dollars every month to try to help the channel out. I set up a new goal on it that I hope a bunch of people will be interested in. If we get up to $200 a month on Patreon, so I won't monetize new videos the first week that they're out. So if you're a regular subscriber to the channel, which if you're listening to my voice right now, you probably are, if we get $200 in donations a month, you won't have to watch ads when new videos come out anymore, which I don't know about you, but I really hate having to watch ads on videos. So go on over there. I'm not asking a lot of money. I want this free field training to stay free and to be available for everybody from now forever. But if you want to be able to watch it without ads, go on down there, give $1, or if you just like the message that we're sending out about law enforcement and security industry, go over there, give $1 a month. Everybody could afford $1 a month, and it would really help me out. Hopefully I can get a camera and a decent microphone, so that way we don't have a whole bunch of wind noise, and I can shoot on days that aren't absolutely perfect out. It'll make it a lot easier to get content out to you. You guys be safe. Hopefully we'll see you next week with a pro tip.